Good day, gentlemen. Welcome to the Glenn Johnson Show here on Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM, WBISLP, Winterville, Aden, Clifton, Southside, Greenville, North Carolina. And let me just figure out what's going on with the audio. I think we'll have it straightened out in a second. Anyway, this is the Glenn Johnson Show here on Awesome Radio. And joining me is my special guest, Mr. Kevin Cook, along with his sponsor or support, Sergeant Lee Gardell from the County Sheriff's Office, and of course, my fabulous co-host, Miss Maseena Lewis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. We have a wonderful show for you, of course, and I'm looking forward to getting into this and happy to be here with you all this afternoon. Hope you've had a wonderful week since we were with you last week. Hope everything is going great for everybody.
Thank you. Our special guest is Mr. Kevin Cook, who has a motivational story of inspiration, encouragement, and would like to begin his story, hopefully bring some inspiration and light to other individuals. Mr. Kevin Cook.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Glenn. I'd like to thank Mr. Lee and everyone with the Pitt County Sheriff's Office that has helped to lead me to my destination today. I'm sharing my testimony with you, what it was like throughout my many years of addiction and what it's like today as I turn my life around, give it all. So 32 years old. I'm from Barnwell, North Carolina. And
Yeah, we'll get through it. Okay, continue.
and so growing up, I went to church, and the churches that I went to growing up were thou shalt not.
Oh yeah, she's working on it now. Sorry, do you happen to have anything until we get this stuff straightened out?
Goodness, it's a heck of an echo going on in here. I can just add that I'm happy to be here on the program this morning or this afternoon, and I'm really proud that Kevin Cook's on here with us. I've known Kevin for a few years now, and when I first met him, he wasn't the man that I'm sitting beside right now. And
Yeah.
wasn't somebody that I would hang out with in a social environment. And right now, I would have him at my house at my dinner table any day to hang out with my family. He's a friend. He's a brother in Christ, and a good man. Someone that I'm proud to know. And I'm just excited to hear his story again. I get cold chills every time I hear it, and I hope it's an inspiration to everyone else.
Absolutely. And God really did enter your life and did some work in your life. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir. So we'll start as a teenager. Growing up, I like I said, we went to church. I was taught the thou shalt not. So I was never taught the grace and mercy. So coming up, I thought, I had already done too many bad things. God wanted nothing to do with me. Started hanging around the wrong group, and it was cool to smoke pot. That's what I thought growing up. Everybody was doing it. So we were smoking cigarettes, smoking pot, get alcohol whenever we could. And as a late, 18, 19 years old, that was what my daily life looked like was drinking and smoking pot. Fast forward a little while to my early 20s. I had started a construction business and was doing pretty good. I had not really done any hard drugs. I was just drinking, smoking pot, and He got with a girl, started a business, bought a house, was doing well. And I guess after, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years with her, I kind of got complacent with her and started going back to doing little hard drugs. After a couple of years, she got tired of it. She left. And at this point, it was free for Kevin to do whatever Kevin wanted to, you know? And so I was going on drinking binges. I was, doing some pills and drugs. 2014, my mom had come over. I had sent a suicidal text to her, April 4th, 2014. So she come over to the house and, she beat on the door. She's trying to wake me up. I had drunk a fifth of liquor and passed out. I wouldn't wake up. So she's worried. She's concerned about me. She calls the sheriff over to come do a well-being check. Well, they come over. They beat on the windows. They beat on the doors. They can't get me up. So at this point, my mom's like, well, please go in there and check on my son. And so they took a ladder off my work van. They crawled through one of the windows. They opened the back door and let 3 more sheriffs in. So as they come around one of the bedrooms in the house and they kick the bedroom door in, about the time I wake up, and I took a step toward. I didn't know who it was when I woke. I just woke up drunk. Somebody's kicking my bedroom door in. I got up and lunged towards him, and I was shot twice. So they called the ambulance. The ambulance came in. They took me to the hospital. I went through a few surgeries. I nearly lost my left arm. Left the hospital a week or 2 later with a prescription of 100 and some Percocets. So this led to my opiate addiction. I went through a couple more surgeries in the next following months. And at this point, I got hooked on the pills so bad that I couldn't go a day without them. When I woke up, I had to have them. When the doctor gave me a prescription, I'd take more than I was supposed to. I'd run out at the end of the month. And finally, I was around somebody who'd done heroin and convinced me that well, I ain't gonna say convinced me because it was my choice, but led to my decision to do heroin for the first time. And eventually I lost the pill, the doctor prescribing the pills, and just relied on the heroin, which led to many other drugs, cocaine, ecstasy, you name it. If I could get my hands on it, if it made me feel different. And a lot of what I found out was when I got shot, it really didn't hurt me mentally.
Yeah.
Right. So spiritually, I was already broken.
Yeah.
And now my pride is broke. I used to get hold a nail. I can't use my left hand today. So I can't ball it up and I can't feel it. But that was messing with my pride, not my ability to do anything. So I was trying to do these drugs. It made me feel different. It get me outside of myself. All along, I needed Jesus is what I needed. I just didn't know it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was trying to be my own God. And I just say to our listeners that don't work.
I know, but you know what? We always say here on the show, at least on my program sometimes, can something good come out of something bad?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think this bad situation, particularly when you're getting shot by one of the deputies, really changed your life because you had a situation with your arm, but at least you didn't lose your life. So I hate to sound redundant, but do you have any animosity now towards the Pitt County Sheriff's Office?
Absolutely not.
I didn't think so because you have a good friend, Sergeant Lee Darnell, who's here to support you. I know he's a man of good character, and I see it in you. You still have a lot of pride, strength to carry on. That's why you're here today, to share your story, to help others get through what they might be going through. So your story is very inspirational.
Absolutely. So moving forward, I went through, that was in 2014. I went through the next 5 years. It was all about when I wake up, I got to have.
Yeah. I'll hold that thought for the next segment. We're about to go to our first break. When we come back, we'll ask Miss Maseena Lewis, my co-host, to interject along with Sergeant Lee Darnell. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. Back in a moment.
My name is
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show here on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. Christian inspiration for the family and ministry teaching for practical Christian living. We are joined today by Mr. Kevin Cook, sharing his inspirational and motivational story, a testimony actually, to encourage other people. I'm going to now go to my co-host, Ms. Maseena Lewis, or Sergeant Lee Darnell, for their comment or questions. Maseena.
Well, I've said it several times, but I'm going to say it again. The devil means things for evil, but God means them for good. And even when we are going through what may be the lowest point in our lives, even when we're battling and fighting a mighty battle, whether it's addiction or anything else, we all have our different battles. Even if it may seem like a dark time, God still means something for good. And going through that thing, they call it going through because you will get out of it. You will reach light, but you have to go through in order to build you up into who you are meant to become. And so this is just another amazing example of that. Just God taking something that was a dark time in our lives and turning it into a testimony to help other people and just to strengthen us and to show us grace and mercy and love and the power of God. So yeah, this is this.
And I think Maseena put that very, very, very well. Sarge.
I think back. I don't have a time in my life to compare with that, but I think back to my lowest of lows, and I never lost hope. I prayed every day that I could come back from my lowest of lows, and I never lost hope, even though I didn't have a clue what was next in my life, and I didn't know how I could go on that next day. But I think about your situation, and I don't know how I could imagine that next day coming. But you don't have animosity now. What was your mentality at the time, though? How did you have hope, or did you have hope? Were you angry? I mean, who were you at that moment?
Yeah.
I think for the most part, I was hopeless. Hopeless state of mind and spirit. Through addiction is just for me. Once I got heavy into it, I was just thinking about right now what I can do to make myself feel better right now. So I wasn't worried about tomorrow, or the next day. And I think a lot of times that I would just want, I was hoping that this might be my last shot of heroin. I was almost to the point where I was okay with that. It's not a life worth living at all. It wasn't for me. Addiction.
Yeah.
I was just broken everywhere, spiritually, physically, and mentally broken. So, moving on from where I left off through the next, 5 years, I was just my dad had got cancer. I wanted to be there for him, but hooked on the drugs, I really couldn't, and I was lying, cheating, and stealing. My dad, he did a lot of construction. I would lie and say I had a construction job to go over there and get some tools to go pawn them or go sell them to somebody that would buy them to get drugs. You know, it was my mom. I would, she'd give me her card and say, "Hey, put gas in my car," and I'd take a picture of her credit card in Western Union myself $400. I mean, it was just and this continued. It wasn't just that's just a couple of examples, but this was like my daily life, and it's something that I would never do sober or clean. Not doing drugs. I would not do that. It's just the addiction takes over, and the obsession is the thought that overrides all of the thoughts, and it does not respond to reason. It's just a thought that does not respond to reason. I'm not thinking about the consequences. They can get me arrested and I can go to jail.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about what do I have to do right now, today, to get my next fix. And it's a terrible way to live. And I lost my dad. We were in September 5th, 2017. It was the day before my birthday. I was with him when he passed at the hospice here in Greenville. But when he passed, I would say this was probably what I could say, first rock bottom. I felt I didn't have anything to live for at the time. I was just all completely 100% about drugs. I went probably 4 months just doing drugs as hard as I could do them, as much money as I had to do drugs. And, one night, I was with some friends and we were doing crystal meth and been up for a few days. And my mom had texted me. It was my dad's birthday. It was January 11th, 2018. And she said, today's your daddy's birthday. And it's like the Holy Spirit pushed all the drugs out of my system. And I was 100%.
That's good. That is so good.
100% sober. And I had been doing all these drugs and I was sober. And I remember getting up from the house I was at and walking home, and I called my mom. I said, I got a problem. And she said, well, you stayed over here a couple nights ago, and I had some Vicodin in the cabinet. You didn't take none. I didn't think you were doing anything. But I was like, no, I need some help. She called and found we found a bed and a detox unit, and I went to detox. I left detox and I went to a faith-based recovery in Morehead City called Hope Recovery.
Yeah.
So I go through, this is my first bout in recovery at all. So when I go through this recovery, I have the idea that Kevin is an addict and not an alcoholic. And they tell me for 6 months through this program, it's an awesome program. I just wasn't willing to adhere to all the principles of it. To give it all up. I felt I could still take some drinks. I just couldn't do drugs.
Yeah.
So I go through, they got a great church down there, One Harbor Church we were going to. I joined, got a job. I moved out, got an apartment. I was doing great until about the fourth or fifth time I drank.
I'm going to ask you a question before we go to the break, and then I'm going to pose a question to yourself and Sergeant Darnell. The question I'm going to ask you right now, though, which is when you said you identify yourself as an addict. When you identify yourself as an addict because they instill that in you so that you will constantly remind yourself that you are an addict so you won't go back to what you were doing.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
My question to you and Sergeant Darnell before the break. I'm a volunteer with the Pitt County Sheriff's Office, Citizens on Patrol. So that Monday, I'm waiting to go on duty. I have I don't call it a police scanner. I just call it an emergency scanner. So I'm listening to all the emergency calls all over the nation. I happen to be tuned into a police department out in the Midwest. I'm not going to mention the name of the agency. But anyway, the agency called dispatch and they requested paramedics on the scene of a person that was on an overdose situation. There were people on the scene indicated to the police and the first responders that they had administered Narcan 4 times already before they even got there. I'm like, that had to be so potent because they said what they identified was fentanyl. So my question to both of you, so sometime is the potency or a particular drug has a factor in, if somebody's going to come out of something or if they're going to make the situation worse. Like in this case, if that individual is already injected 4 times of Narcan, I don't know the outcome out of the situation because I turned my phone off at that time. But I don't know if that person survived or if they, succumbed to that situation. So my question is it the potency of the drug or the drug itself?
So my personal opinion is so heroin is now being cut with fentanyl.
Oh, is it really?
So fentanyl is a little cheaper and way stronger. So they can take a little bit of fentanyl and put in a bag of heroin, and they don't have to have that much heroin. So it's cheaper.
We'll touch on that a little bit more when we get back from the break. And I don't want to interrupt your story anymore. So I'm going to keep my questions and comments short. I just wanted to ask you that question. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivation with Glenn and Maseena. Back in a moment.
Hi, this is LaMan.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for keeping it locked right here to Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM, Winterville, Aden, Grifton, Southside, Greenville, North Carolina. We are joined with our special guest, Mr. Kevin Cook, along with the supporter of his for support, Sergeant Lee Darnell, Pitt County Sheriff's Office, and my fabulous co-host, Miss Maseena Lewis. So we have 30 minutes remaining for the broadcast. I'm going to go right back over to Mr. Kevin Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn. So I was in Moorhead in Hope Recovery. Like I said, I joined One Harbor Church. It's kind of a requirement through the program. I wasn't willing to completely surrender and not do any drugs or alcohol. So I had started drinking once I graduated the program after 6 months. I had just paid a car off. I had, close to a year clean. And about the third or fourth time that I got drunk, I wound up with a needle in my arm.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys that were with me had relapsed, and he came up to me. I probably drank 9 or 10 beers, and he's like, "Here, man, it's around your birthday. You about got a year clean." And he's like, my brain, because I had the alcohol in it helped me make the decision. Okay, yeah, it told me it was okay just this one time, knowing that once I get started, I can't stop. So 2 months after that, progressively, it went from maybe I done it that one time, and then I did it the next weekend, and I was doing it every weekend, and I was doing it, every weekend and Wednesday. It progressed into a daily addiction again. It didn't take long before, I had been up for probably 7 days on meth, coming down the road, and thought the police was behind me, 2:00 in the morning, and they weren't. I pulled over, sleep deprivation. I pulled over at the store. I jumped out and I run down the beach, and mobile crisis, a police officer called mobile crisis, come pick me up off the Atlantic Beach, and my ribs were showing. I was about 130 pounds. I was again beat, and I went to detox again, and I left there, went to Healing Transitions in Raleigh. It's a homeless shelter rehab in Raleigh. So when I got to Healing Transitions, I've never been to a homeless shelter at this point in my life. So it was a very humbling experience. I was sleeping on a mat on the floor, and they would walk you for like 6 miles a day in the program, and I kind of got some friends, and I was doing good, but I was renting a house out that I had here in Pitt County, and every time they were Western Union me the money was a big trigger for me, and I get the money and I go out and relapse, and then I come back to the homeless shelter, and I did this for multiple months until the homeless shelter said, "Hey, you can't stay here anymore." The first comes around, you get some money, you go on for a day or two, and you come dragging your feet back and start the program over again. There's people here that really want this thing. You're holding a bed up for somebody,
Yeah, I heard that happen to people a lot. They'll be in a drug or alcohol rehabilitation, and then they'll go get a job after being clean for so long. But as soon as they get that check and cash that check, boom, relapse. That trigger, that check is the trigger, or just cashing the check is the trigger. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
But I want to tell you something about what I see in you. And I'm just making this observation based upon what I see now. Because I think that I didn't know you prior to today. But I think even when you were in your addiction, that, they say alcohol or alcohol and substance abuse is a mind and mood altering chemical. But looking at you, I don't think you were the type of person that let that influence your mind as far as being a violent person. Because I'm looking at you, I don't think you had a violent tendencies in you, even when you were abusing drugs.
Right. There was some aggressive moments, but I wasn't a very violent person until if I ran out of drugs, I ain't had no money, and there was some people around me, I get a little irritated. I could throw a fit. Me and the sheriff had a little history prior to me getting shot. I played music loud prior to getting shot, and the sheriff would come out a lot and say, "Hey, turn it down," and I'd be drunk and belligerent. I'm surprised they didn't arrest me for. I'm sure there's a charge for the way that I talked to these sheriff's officers that would come to my house. But
because you just didn't care at the time. The drug and alcohol was telling you, I can do what I want to do.
Right.
And you just didn't care. But I'm pretty sure you had a lot of respect for law enforcement, and you handled the situation correctly.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Today, I do have a lot of respect for law enforcement because they had to deal with me for many years in my active addiction. But
we only shot you that once.
But so moving on to back at Healing Transitions, they kicked me out. I had a little experience with an Oxford house before. It's like they call it a 3/4 house, like a halfway house.
Oxford house. Hey, guess what? I never shared this with anybody. I used to operate one in Philadelphia. Yes.
So I moved into an Oxford house when the homeless shelter kicked me out, and I got a job. Same thing, got that first check like we were just talking about, and was off to the races. And eventually, I got kicked out of the Oxford house. I stayed in a hammock in the woods right off of Capitol Boulevard in Raleigh, in front of a Walmart for, I don't know, I'd say around a month and a half. Now the whole time I got a house here in Pitt County I'm renting out, but I'm waiting for the first to come so I can get that money and go get high again. So I had a charge in Pitt County for a worthless check, and so I had to find a ride from Raleigh back to Farmville to go to court. So when I come back, I go to court. I've been up, I made it to court like 7 o'clock in the morning. They don't open the doors till 9, and the Farmville police station's right next to it. And I've been up several days on meth, and I heard it was an officer. I know now, but I heard some keys jingling, and it was an officer walking around the building. Well, I got up and I'm like ducking behind cars, and he can tell something's wrong with me.
Yeah, right.
So they got me into the police station, and he's like, "You need help. You need to go to the hospital." And I was like, "I don't need to go to the hospital." He said, "Well, you need to go to the hospital or you're going to jail." I said, "Okay, the hospital sounds pretty good to me." And so they did like I think it's called a sergeant's commitment or something, where the sergeant had involuntary committed me to the hospital. So I get in there, I sleep for a couple of days, get back on my feet. They release me after 72 hours, and I'm right back at it. I mean, same lifestyle.
Yeah.
I got a job, was working a little bit, had rented a trailer, and was doing meth again. I was up for about 5 days, and I was scared to death. Scared that somebody was chasing me with a gun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nobody chasing me.
Really?
Really. So I run away from my house about a mile down the road to a trailer park. And I beat on the door, the first trailer I got to, and they didn't answer the door. So I run around, go to the second one. I beat on the door, and they didn't answer. So I run out, and I think somebody's like right on my heels with a gun chasing me. Nobody's behind me, even chasing me.
Mm.
I jump in the car, the passenger side of a car, over the seat, and I jump out the driver's side. And I run to the last trailer, and the last two I had been to didn't open the door. So I said, I opened the door for them. I kicked the door open. And there was two ladies on the couch, and I scared them to death. It was 12 o'clock on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And they're like, get out, I'm going to call the police. I said, please do. They ran to the back room, and they called the police. I sat down on the couch and waited for them to get there.
Yeah.
And was going to tell them about this person that was chasing me who didn't exist. And so when they got there, they arrested me. They took me to jail, and this my sobriety date is April 26th, 2019. They overcharged me. They charged me with first-degree burglary, which means that I went in the house in the middle of the night.
All right. We have 15 seconds before we go to the break. When we come back from the break, we'll have 20 minutes of talk time remaining. I'm going to give that time to our guest, Maseena Lewis and Sergeant Darnell. This is 106.9 FM. Back in a moment.
Hurry up.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are winding it down to the final 20 minutes of the broadcast. So I'm not going to ask Kevin a lot of questions, but I'm going to ask my co-host, Miss Maseena Lewis, or Sergeant Darnell, if they'd like to interject anything. But first, so that Kevin can finish his testimony and encourage other individuals, I would just like to quote Sergeant Darnell on something, and we'll take it from there. you were blessed with another chance, the gift to change lives. How do you feel about that, sir?
So I feel in today, it's not, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have a hand. God give me a hand, and I'm reaching down to help somebody else.
Right.
It's God working through me. It isn't me. It's just, I'm just a willing vessel.
And with that being said, what's your encouragement, inspiration for other individuals who may be in a similar situation before I go back over to Maseena and Sergeant Darnell?
It's a hurt. That's why I come up here and tell my story, man. Because I've been to a lot of lows in my life, and I've been a lot of places. And if I can do it, you can too. And that's my recovery today is 100% about reaching out, reaching down, and helping somebody else, and bringing them out of the hole with hopes that they reach down and help somebody else.
Yeah. I do have one final question for Sergeant Darnell because I don't want to tie up today's broadcast with a lot of questions. My question is, when I was going through training, they always instructed us that if you encountered an individual who was in a overdose state versus somebody that was in a state from alcohol, you would treat the alcoholic first before the person in the overdose state because the alcoholic could actually go into shock and die, whereas the person that's in an overdose state from a narcotic can be revived by such as Narcan and stuff like that. Is that still a factor?
Well, actually, I wouldn't make a choice and treat this one first, this one second.
Yeah.
It all kind of flows together. And at the same time, especially with treating overdoses, these days that will make you stop breathing pretty much instantaneously.
Yeah.
And really, that's more important than about anything these days.
That's why I asked, because I didn't think most of our first responders wouldn't just single out a particular person based on whatever. They want to treat the person regardless of what the situation might be.
Absolutely.
So that's why I figured that, there's always things changing. So I just want to make sure of that. Now I'm not going to ask any more questions today. I'm going to give it back over to Maseena.
Well, my question would be for you. What was that moment like? The moment, I noticed my mother was an addict at one time, and so was my aunt. And I've known people that have been addicts and struggled with substance and alcohol abuse. And I know for each and every one of you guys, there's a moment that you come to, you hit that head that makes everything change and make you determine that this is the final time. I'm sick of this. I'm done. What was that moment for you?
So that's exactly where I'm at in my story. Actually, when I got arrested, and I went to first appearance the next day. I don't remember much about it because like I said, I had been up for a week. But when I sat down in front of that judge and he looked at me and told me first degree burglary carries 25 years, that was a wake up call. At this time I was only 29 years old. So I said, I could do the next 25 years in prison if I'm convicted. And I got to do something different. This was what I call my new rock bottom. After I hit the first one, I kept digging. But, I said, Jesus, this is it. I'm turning it all over to you. I'm going to do what everybody asked me to do. So then if it don't work, then I can say that I gave it 100. And I give it all, to Jesus. I started reading the Bible a lot. I joined Pilot Dance, started a program in the Pitt County Sheriff's Department called SHARP, Sheriff's Heroin Addiction Recovery Program. I seen a letter on the wall about a week after I got arrested. I applied, I got in, and they were just starting the program at this time in 2019. And they hired a programs coordinator, Jason Jackson. He's awesome. He come in and he got like Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, peer support specialists, motivational speakers. Pastor David Linton come in and did the 12-step program with us. People come in and they share their experience, strength, and hope with us to show us that, hey, I've been where you've been, or I've been in a similar situation as you. You can get out and you can do better. Just give us that hope, And I was like, dang, Jermaine McNair, here in Greenville came in and talked to us, and he is a great motivational speaker. And I think it was one day, when he got done telling us his story, I was like, Tremaine can do it, I can do it too. He just gave me that hope, something to grasp onto, because every other time I've ever been in the Pitt County Detention Center, which is quite a few, it has been I went in with 1 or 2 drug dealers and I came out with 10.
Yeah.
I came out a sicker person than I was when I went to jail. But for this last time, this 2019, I went through the SHARP program. We wasn't gratifying our war stories of how much money we stole from somebody or how much drugs we did and trying to one up the next person. We sat around and talked about how stupid we were for doing these things, and what we were going to do when we got out, not to continue to do these things. And so it changed the whole atmosphere of the detention center life in my view. And so when I got out, I remember this one guy would just tell us, don't use and go to a meeting. So when I got out, the first thing I did was went to a meeting.
That's right.
My mom, she picked me up walking down the road when they released me. And she said, I don't know where you're going, but you can't stay here.
Yeah.
Let
me ask Sergeant Darnell a question. As far as the SHARP program goes, are there any brochures, anything about that program? Because remember, we did the police report show, right. And I said I was online, and I was trying to make a document out of the SHARP stuff, but the image is protected because it wouldn't allow me to download the image, and it definitely wouldn't allow me to attach it to anything. And I should know better because a lot of things are licensed and it's protected. So I should have known that. But since you mentioned the SHARP program, how it worked in your life, I'm going to see if I can pick up some brochures from the sheriff's office. If I have to hand them out to an individual, at least I'll have them to hand out.
Well, it's on our website.
Oh, it is.
If you go to the website and go under Detention Center, it's under there. And also under the main part of the sheriff's office website, if you go under services, and it says something else, services and something. But if you go under services, it will list SHARP and WARE. WARE is a similar program to SHARP that's specific to women and some of the challenges they face.
And I was about to ask you that. Yeah.
Right. And it will break down. It will show you the logo for SHARP and WARE.
And it wouldn't allow me to download either one of them.
I bet you can. I'm just saying, I bet you can. And it describes both of the programs and what they're about and kind of what we do with them. And if you want some handouts, I can bring you some over.
I think that'd be good. That'd be better than me trying to download them. It won't let me download that logo. I'm telling you.
I know some people. We can pull that off.
I know you still. I know you know some people. Sarge. I didn't mean to cut you off, Kevin. You want to continue?
So, like I said, I get out of jail. My mom picks me up. She's like, you can't stay here. I've been lying, cheating, and stealing from her for, so many years. She don't know whether I'm gonna come out and do the right thing or if I'm gonna fall back into my old habits, the way I had been living my life the past 5 or 7 years. So I called. I got voted into an Oxford house here in Greenville, and voted me in and have no job. Just got out of jail for first-degree burglary, 2 attempted first-degree burglaries, and a felony B&E or motor vehicle.
Yeah. I
got all these charges pending. I ain't gonna be able to find a job nowhere. That's what I'm thinking. But I remember when I was in the SHARP program, Jason Jackson was telling us about this program called 3rd Street here in Greenville, and they had a landscaping company. So, I called Jason Jackson. I said, hey, I remember 3rd Street. You were telling us, can you give me the number to the guy? And he did, and I called, and they hired me the next day.
Yeah.
So 3rd Street is a place that hires people. It's a second chance place. They hire people who's got a criminal background. And
that's good. That's very good of them.
Getting in recovery. So it's like a second chance place to work. And they come alongside you. And so they got a landscaping division, an auto detailing division, and a catering division. And
when we get back, I want you to tell me a little bit more about the Oxford houses around here. We'll have to talk about that off the air. Back in a moment.
A friend of mine and his pregnant wife, their first child, by the way, were visiting her doctor not too long ago. Doctor gave an ultrasound and he laughed and said, I thought you might want to see a sample. Scripture says that God is good and he's good all the time. However, it's a good thing to remember that it's only a sample of what he has planned when we get home. The scripture says it's a guarantee of what you can count on in the future. A sample, if you will, and only a small one. You have to be patient to receive your entire inheritance. He asked me to remind you. Steve Brown, you think about that. Share what you just heard with a friend. Go to youthinkaboutthat.com.
My name is Jayla. You're to see to my pop, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn and Maseena. This is Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM, WBISLP. I failed to mention that you can listen to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week here on 106.9 FM. Also online at WBISAwesomeRadio.org. And please don't forget the various apps that's available. Google Play, the App Store for all the Apple and Mac users, Amazon Alexa, and Roku TV. If there's a listener out there that would like to make a comment or question, please do so by calling 252-756-2008. This is our final 10 minutes of the broadcast. So without further ado, I'm going to give it back over to Mr. Kevin Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn. So I had gotten, do you have a question about the Oxford House?
We might have to talk about that after. I just want to know where they are and pay some people a visit to introduce myself, because I don't think they're familiar with me around this area as I was in Philadelphia,
Right,
and the Jersey Shore. So that's my intention, just to go by and introduce myself and give people some hope and encouragement.
Yes, sir. So I got voted in the Oxford House here in Greenville, called Third Street. Third Street, I was talking a little bit about them. They are a Christian nonprofit organization. They have a private Christian school for boys, is the academy side. This is called the ABCs. Academy is A, private Christian school for boys. B is business and workforce development. They have the landscaping, auto detailing, and catering. And then C is the community impact. And on the academy, they try to teach the kids that they are worthy in God's eyes. And it's so awesome to be able to work at a place where you get to see what God's doing in these children that's coming to the academy, the school, and see them play and empower each other. And then we do the same thing on the business and workforce development end with the grown guys who may have been in jail or prison or had addiction issues, and they come in and learn to love one another and work as a team. And then the community impact, to where we may, they might paint a bed. It's volunteers from all over Greenville and other areas. They'll come over on the third Saturday every month, and they might go out, paint a classroom for the kids, or they may go to a lady's house who's on a fixed income and can't cut her grass, and we might cut her grass.
Yeah.
Just, it's a great program to see God working in all areas.
That's right, because all three of those programs you mentioned, particularly the community impact, but all three of those programs in particular, all of them are making an impact for the kingdom of Christ.
Yes, absolutely. So
everybody's getting their life together, making that impact. So
I stayed in the Oxford House and started working at Third Street as a $10 hour laborer. At the time, they had a home improvement division that they no longer have now. But I started as a $10 hour laborer on home improvements. I was still working on me. I started going to church. I started hearing about God's grace and mercy and how he's forgiven us. And I realized, I started working these steps, and I started getting to, the part about the sheriff, and I quit playing victim. I played victim. I realized I played victim ever since I got shot, and I quit playing that victim. And then I become to take responsibility for it. If Kevin Cook was doing what he was supposed to be doing on October 4th in 2014, Kevin would have never been shot. The sheriff would have never been at my house. So I made the snowball at the top of the mountain. I pushed it down the mountain. It turned into an avalanche. But I made the snowball. I started it, and I took responsibility for that. I had a brother-in-law who he turned me in to the law. I had a warrant for my arrest, and I had a big resentment against him for that. My mom had to have 2 Christmases and 2 Thanksgivings because we couldn't be in the same room. But when I got to this point, my sponsor that I was working with, he said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And at the time, I was a crew leader cutting grass for 3rd Street. I said, "We cut grass." He says, "Anybody ever try to beat you up for cutting their grass?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, you want to beat this man up for doing his job for?" He said, "If you didn't have a warrant, he couldn't have turned you in. That wouldn't have been part of his job."
Yeah.
So it was another hard pill to swallow. When I swallowed it, I got and looked at it and broke it down that I had the warrant, that it was all my doing. All my problems were of my own making. So I turned it over to Jesus. I started going to church. I worked hard. Today, I'm the director of business and workforce development at 3rd Street Education Center.
Good.
I'm a certified peer support specialist. 3rd Street sent me to get that. Commercial applicator for landscaping. I go back into the jail 1 to 2 times a month and talk to the guys in the SHARP program. Hey, I laid there for 6 months.
That's great. That is great.
When you get out, if you need to get in Oxford House, call me. I'll help. I'll make some phone calls, pull some strings, try to get you in there. If you need a ride to an AA or NA meeting or church, I'll get you to church. I'll get you to AA, NA meeting. You need a job, fill out an application. I'll try to get you on this job here. You need a ride to work, I'll pick you up on the way. Whatever I can do to empower these people, because a lot of times I just needed a chance. I didn't have a chance when I got out of jail, and I'm trying to give these people the chance that everybody gave me when I got out.
That's right. Time. Let me just add to that before I give it to Sergeant Darnell and Maseena for a closing. See, everybody can fail. Everybody can fall down. You can be busted. You can go to your lowest pit, but don't focus on your failure. Focus on how fast it takes you to get back up. We have 3 minutes remaining. Sergeant Darnell or Maseena.
Go ahead, Sergeant Darnell.
All I'll say is, this could be any of us. Kevin didn't have that plan when he got shot that night.
Yeah.
None of us would have that plan. And we are all capable of being in that same situation. I don't care who you are.
That's right.
We're all sinners and we all fall short at times, and we could all be in that same boat. I have a card on my desk that says, "You are not the mistakes you've made."
Right.
And I try to remember that, and I pass that along. And I'm just proud of Kevin, and I'm proud that our programs have played a part in that. Just a part in so many things that have come together to help. And thank you for telling the story yet again. Yeah. I'm inspired.
That's why I want to talk to you after this show. I definitely want to meet some individuals at the Oxford House and around Greenville, just to introduce myself to them, to let them know who I am. But prior to that, I want to talk to you because I said I ran one of the Oxford houses in Philadelphia. I was actually a manager, but they used to use the term house man. And I hate that term so much. I'm not a house man. I'm a manager. I'm assisting the director who, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now, but it's Silver Spring, Maryland. I'm not a house man. I hate that word so much. I'm just helping. But anyway, I want to thank you, Kevin. Kevin, you want to give a final word?
I just like to say, through all the programs and everything, through my success, I didn't have my GED either. I have my GED today, and I'm enrolled in Pitt Community College Horticulture School. But through all, through the Pitt County Sheriff's Office, 3rd Street, church, AA, NA, I was a sick dude. I needed help from everywhere I could get it, and just turning my life over. And I think I live today by the old bracelets that were around in the 90s. What would Jesus do? WWJD. Yeah. I fall short every day. Now I am nowhere near perfect to this, but I do try to pause before I make a decision. I don't make any impulse decision. I try to think, what would Jesus do? And I still fall way short of the glory of God. But that helps me to make way smarter decisions. I call people that's in recovery and Christian people and try to run ideas and bounce them off of them before I make a big decision today, because I don't know it all. And just to be able to reach out and ask for help has helped push me a long ways along the way.
I'm glad you mentioned the part, what would Jesus do? Because those prices, a lot of people used to like to say the WWDG actually stands for what would Jesus drive? And they all responded by saying Honda. When they were asked why, it says because in Acts 1 and 2, we all should be in one accord. Yeah. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in today with my special guest, Mr. Kevin Cook, and Sergeant Lee Darnell, with my fabulous co-host, Miss Maseena Lewis. Until the next time, God bless everyone. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. God bless you.